How's it going, and welcome to The Guitar Effect. My name's Rob. In this episode we're going to be talking about my favourite piece of Line 6 gear ever. But before we do, I'll ask you to like and subscribe and hit the notifications bell so you'll be made aware every time we put a new video out. So before I get into that, I just want to, for the first time ever, do a little bit of a housekeeping. So we have a competition running at the moment here at The Guitar Effect to win one of these really cool 3 grey pedals, which I'll put on screen now. They are 3 distortion pedals from the Mosky hand-built range, and you can win either the brown or the rat pedal, super rat pedal I should say, just by commenting in below about what guitar and amp you would like to use them with and being a subscriber to my channel. The Ultimate Drive has already been won, and I'm giving the other 2 away as I pass 900 and 1,000 subscribers, and we're currently at about 830 or so. So, housekeeping aside, I want to talk about this pedal. So in my opinion, the greatest thing that Line 6 has ever done, and it's not the Helix or the HX Effects or the Pod Go, it's the simple and subtle M5. So the first thing I'm going to do is put an example of it in a track to show how it sounds, right? So, but before I do that, which I don't normally do, I'm just going to show you how I'm using it, right? So I don't have it plugged in at the moment, but you'll understand. So how this works is you have a list of effects that you can choose one and use this switch to turn it on, and then tap the tempo in with this switch, or indeed plug an expression pedal in to control certain parameters. And you can do that one effect at a time. However, how I'm using it here is when you hit the 2 switches together, it changes into a scrolling list of presets of one effect at a time. So that's how I'm using it here. So this track is just this pedal plugged into the front end of my Hotone Nano British Invasion miniature head, direct into the interface, right? And what I'm doing is I'm switching down between presets as I go. So it starts off with a modulated delay, then I hit the switch, it brings into a 1 octave up sort of faux 12 string thing, and it's really subtle. And then I hit it again, it brings in a compressor for the chucky verse part, and then I hit it again, it brings in the tube driver distortion emulation for the last part. So you'll hear them sequentially in this track now. This is the best thing the Line 6 have ever did is for a number of reasons, and I put them up on screen as I go down through them. Number 1, value. This can be had second hand for as little as €90, and new they're about €120. And for the amount of things that this box can do, its value for money and its longevity, I think, as a result of that, is really just absolutely outstanding. Okay, so that's the first thing, value. The second thing is just power, right? So the power that this little box has and its ability to do so many different things is really quite amazing. It's for such a small footprint. I'll get into the different things it can do in a demonstration about the best way to use it a little later on in the video. But that's the second thing. The power of what it can do is literally really quite amazing. And the third thing is just its intuitive user interface and feature set. So it's basically its functionality. So you can use it to model delays and reverbs and put it in the loop of your amp and cycle through them as you see fit. You can use it to do, say, fuzz and octave fuzz, and it does respectable fuzz and octave fuzzes, and put them at the beginning of your board and just use it for compressor fuzz and octave fuzz, like gain-based effects. You can use it for a wah and an auto wah and a filter or something like that. And again, you can put it somewhere else on your board to do that. You can even have two of these on your board and use them for just your delay and reverb. And then there's a functionality where you can either select, you can turn on and you can select whatever effect you want with the knobs, and then you can turn it on and off with this foot switch, and then tap a tempo in with this foot switch. If you hold this foot switch down, it turns into, I would say, a usable, not an amazing, but a usable tuner. So it could possibly replace the tuner on your board as well. There's a noise gate that isn't built into one of these switches. Mind you, you can make it a noise gate, but there's a noise gate in the sort of back end of it that you can have on or off. You can have it as true bypass or buffered bypass. I'm not sure about this, but I think you can turn on trails so that when you turn the delay off, it still rings out. And so that's the functionality. And the last thing is that I think is so amazing is the sound. So this is what on the Helix gear will be termed as a legacy effects, right? But even those effects, like the modulated delay is great. The digital delay with modulation is great. The digital delay by itself is great. I like the tape echo. The Hall verb is great. The shimmer verb is great. And also there's an expression pedal input, so you can put an expression pedal on. You could even, in theory, put an expression pedal on and within one preset switch between different mix level of modulation, for example. You could turn it on and with the expression pedal back have no modulation and a short delay, or even like a low mix delay, and then push the pedal forward and have a high mix delay. So, and both of which would sound great. So the last thing I think is great about it is its sounds. Like the sounds on this are really, really usable. And that's the reason why either this or the M9, its bigger brother, that's still small enough to put on a pedalboard with other pedals, is a feature on a lot of Nashville players' boards. Because I think if you're in a situation where you don't want to have a phaser and a flanger and an auto wah and all the kind of one-use pedals you'd want on a pedalboard, you can simply replace it with this and just cycle through them as you want them for a recording situation where you're not trying to get stuff quickly. It's just there as a Swiss Army knife to do loads of stuff on your board. And again, €120 brand new. One other great thing about it is it takes 500 milliamps of regular 9-volt power. So most power supplies will have an output that will power this pedal, built into them. You don't need to use your own wall wart. So they're the reasons I think it's such a great pedal. How I use it, and again, why it's my favourite piece of Line6 gear, is my favourite method of operating as a guitar player, playing live, is to use pedals and a multi-loop switcher to control those pedals. And if that switcher has MIDI, this thing really comes into its own. So you can put it in a loop, you can move it around, because I use the Boss ES8, which allows you to reorder the pedals, and use it in various different functionalities at different places in the signal chain, and then you just send a MIDI message to it to select whichever patch you want for whatever part you're using it for, and it becomes any pedal at any position in your chain. I mean, that is just absolutely amazing for €110. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get into it on my MIDI switchable board and demonstrate this functionality for you, so you can see just how amazing it is on a loop switcher board. But I would be remiss, I think, if I didn't talk about the negatives. And there's one major negative about this pedal, and that is they break. Now, it's not the end of the world because they're relatively affordable to be able to replace. But they've many, many issues with them, like the power supply jack has failed in a number of these that I've had. As in, literally the plastic cracks and the jack doesn't go in properly, and it doesn't keep it, turning on as easily as it should, and it doesn't keep the power jack secure. That's the first thing that's happened on 2 of these that I've had. I'd say this is the 5th one of these I've had, but to be fair, that could be in 15 years since it's been out. I bought a new one, actually, a second-hand one. And the other thing is, there's this really weird thing that happens, that when you take the feet off, and the previous owner took the feet off this, it affects the power grounding of the pedal in some way. And it's because of the fact that the holes that the screws of the feet go into are painted. It affects the grounding of the pedal. I don't know, I don't understand. But again, what happens is you plug it in and it kind of halfway boots up and doesn't boot up fully. And it is a real problem with these pedals. And again, that's happened to me on 2 of these. All that aside, I still think that with those niggles that it has, it's still well worth the money. Especially if you're putting this on a pedal board and switching it with a switcher. You're not interfacing with it or moving it around or anything. If it stays in one place and it's controlled by a switcher, I think it's a pretty safe bet to not break down. So yeah, the Line6 M5. So let's take a look at how best to use it and take a listen to how good it sounds. Okay, so before I get into demonstrating the pedal being used with the switcher, I think it's important to show basically how it works. So I'll do this as quickly as I can. So as you can see here in this display, there's a number 1, and then it says Tron up, and then there's some kind of progress bars, I suppose you call them, in this display, right? And what they are is, 1 is the number of the preset, Tron up is the number of the particular effect in use, and then these are the controls that are controlled by these knobs. So you'll see here, the Q will move when I move the Q, the mix will move when I move the mix. Basically, the top row and the bottom row of knobs control what's happening with the pedal. This is the on-off switch, and this is a tap tempo, which is inapplicable here to a filter. Tron up being a auto-wah type effect, right? So then what I can do is scroll through the different types of filter effects. So you've got V-Tron, Throbber, which I think is a kind of a pulsing kind of effect. Spin cycle, I don't know what half of these are because I don't use them. Comet Trails, Slow Filter, Octasynth, Synthomatic, Attack Synth, Synth String, Growler, Q Filter, and then you have wahs, you have Veta wah, Facile wah, Weeper wah, Chrome Custom. You've all these different effects. I'm not going to go through everything or demonstrate anything. I'm no guitar plugged into the moment. I'm just showing the functionality. If I hit this model selector, you'll see it changes color, and now it's gone to orange, which is reverb, right? So spring, plate, room, chamber, hall, ducking, etc. Okay, I hit it again, it goes green, which is delay. You've got tube echo, dry through. So you can also do a thing with the delay effects where you can either have the dry signal pass through, or you can have the dry signal be processed digitally as well. Tape echo, dry through. You get the idea. I hit it again. We go to blue, which is modulation. You've got tremolo, all those types of tremolo, phaser. You've got univibe, and so on and so forth. And if I hit it again, it goes to this yellow color, and this is the gain-based effect. So you've got tube driver, tube screamer, overdrive, classic distortion, and so on and so on. And there are compressors in here too. And fuzz, as you can see there, you've got octafuzz, bass octaver, and you've got boost comp, volume pedal, red comp. So every effect you could possibly need is covered off on these delay, mod, distortion, filter, and verb, right? So that's how it works. Groups them all into the various different types of effect that they are. And then you scroll through which one of those type of effects you need with this model select button, right? So that's, if you had this on your board and you wanted to simply have it there in a studio session to go, oh, do you know what, I need a phaser for this song. You simply go, click through until it goes blue, and then scroll this knob until you find a phaser. Chorus, pan phaser, dual phaser, and you would probably audition them as you see fit. And then you would literally turn it off on and off with this, and then you could, if you want to, control the speed with this tap tempo, okay? And that's the extent of its use as a simple singular pedal, right? The other thing you can do is if you hit both of these switches together, you'll see you get this list here, right? So if I scroll through this list, you'll see the number changes and the equivalent name of the preset changes. Now, where this unit really comes into its own is when you're using it with a loop switcher. What you can do is you can plug a MIDI cable into the side of it, and then tell it with a program change number which patch you want it to load up. So I can put in patch 4 tube drive, and then I can, with my MIDI controller, say, right, in this particular preset, call up patch 4, and it'll be active as a tube drive. So that's how the unit works. It'll become apparent why that's so important when I show it in the context of using it with a loop switcher. Okay, so the final way I want to demonstrate the M5 is when it's been used on my pedal board, and this is where, for me anyway, this is why this pedal is the best thing Line 6 has ever done, because it's just so useful in this context. So my pedal board, as you can see, is a load of pedals combined with this loop switcher here. Okay, this is the Boss ES8. There's 8 loops. I have, I think, 9 pedals on the board, but only 8 of them are in loops. Each pedal has its own loop, and one of those loops is the M5, and it's going in stereo, or sorry, it's going from the looper in mono but returning in stereo. So loop 7 on the switcher has a mono sound and a stereo return, right? And then I have the outputs here at the back from the junction box, left and right, running into a Koch Studio Tone 20 on one side, and a Ho-Tone British Invasion Vox copy head basically on the other side, and without anything on, it sounds like this. That's with the T-Rex dual drive there in the middle engaged. Okay, so this is not a demo of this pedal board, but as I switch through patches, and the way this is set up, by the way, is I have a song, one patch per song, or a number of patches per song for different parts. So if I then just go through some patches, you will see the screen on colour on the M5. Unfortunately, I can't get the display to show, but you'll hear the sound. So the first thing that happens is I have it on as a noise gate in loop 1 of, on patch 1 here, and it's just dirty sound, has a noise gate on, right? Then when I go to 2, you'll see it changes to blue, and this is where it's actually on a script phase, but in this particular patch, it's not on. But if I go to the next patch, so that already is stopping me from needing a noise gate and a phaser on this pedal board, and I don't have to reach down and change anything with my hands. It's all done via MIDI. I go to the next patch, and you can't see it, but it's changed from analog chorus. There's also the Mosaic, the Digitech Mosaic 12-string simulators on there. If I go to the next patch, it switches back to a noise gate, but in this case, it's not particularly effective. And on the last patch, it switches back to the chord. So you can see already in one bank of what is 3 songs, it's doing 4 different things. So if I go up then to bank 2 here, it really comes into its own here. I think it does so much different things. So the first patch is this song called Progress, where it's just an analog chorus. I'm playing my 72 thin line telly, by the way. Then when I go to the next patch, it just turns on distortion pedal and the chorus is still there. But then when I go on to the next patch, it changes to orange, and this is an octo verb. So if I play, you see there's no verb, but if I then bring it in with the expression pedal, you can hear it there. So I've actually got the expression pedal plugged into the looper, and then the looper is sending expression control to the M5, which is really easy to set up via MIDI. Don't even need to plug an expression pedal jack into the M5. I mean, it's just so handy. So I could be playing that verse part, so like this, with the expression on. Then pull the reverb out with the expression pedal when I go into the riff part. Right, and then when I go into the end part of the song, it switches to a rotary. And then switch the whole thing off for the end part. So you can see, I haven't had to touch anything on the pedal. I simply went in and set up the particular sounds I wanted between, I think I have about 8 different sounds on it. Plug the MIDI cable into the side of it, and then tell the ES8 which patch I want on the M5 when I change to a different sound. It's really, really brilliant. And it stops me from needing a rotary pedal, a phaser, a chorus pedal, a noise gate, an octave up and down pedal I use for some songs, a phaser, just so much different stuff. An octave reverb, because I have the Hall of Fame at the back of the board set there just for a very big reverb. So you can see it really performs a task of a Swiss Army knife for your pedal board incredibly well, but I think it really comes into its own when you combine it with a loop switching system. So there you go. Hopefully that demonstrates the capability of this absolutely amazing piece of kit. I think between this and the Flashback X4, I can handle all the delay, reverb and modulation I need to do in my band. And like, I'm the sole guitar player in my band and we play atmospheric alternative rock. I have a lot of, work to do. I use a wet dry and stereo rig. I have a lot of work to do. And this and the Flashback basically cover off all that, maybe a Hall of Fame reverb as well, as you saw on the board. So if you have a board that you need a Swiss Army pedal on, just get this. Don't think about it anymore. Just get this. It's brilliant. I would recommend, even if you don't have a loop switcher, get a single loop pedal and put this into it, because if you turn on the scrolling list, you can simply use the up and down foot switches to scroll between what patches you want and then use the loop switch to turn it on and off. Works a treat. I think for the price, it is an absolute must for any pedal board. Like I said, it has its problems. It's not the most reliable pedal in the world, but I think especially if you use a loop switcher with it and don't massively interact with it and don't kick it and stuff, it'll last you. But they do break. So I'm just putting that out there. They do break and they do fail with more regularity than one would really like to see. So yeah, the Line6 M5. Just go get one. It's brilliant. You won't regret it. So thanks for watching this video. As mentioned at the beginning of the video, enter the competition. You might win a pedal. And as always, please like and subscribe if you've gotten this far in the video. And thanks very much for watching. I will see you in another video again soon. Bye bye.